The following is an in-depth analysis. If you haven't seen this film, you might want to before watching this review. Blade Runner 2049 was my third favorite movie of 2017, and in my original review, I praised the film for being a magnificent work of art, which I still stand by that. Apparently, when this movie came out, it didn't get the support it did at the box office due to the complaints of its runtime and not enough action. And the marketing was, as good as the marketing was, it was kind of misleading. So, I'm here to say why I think this movie is an overlooked masterpiece. First of all, the original Blade Runner, I really in love, like I said. I saw the final cut, and the final cut is the version to watch. When it comes to this movie, I really thought that the film succeeded my expectations. And it was not only just as good as the first one, but it was something more. Now, Denis Villeneuve took over, and he did an amazing job doing what a sequel should do. Outdo the first one, but also be just as good as the first one and continue the story. And it did it with dignity and respect. Now, why do I think this movie is an overlooked masterpiece? Well, part of the reason is because a lot of people tend to say that there's not a lot of action. For what action that this movie does have, I think it's best to focus on characters and story. It's not just about the action and the adventure. It's about story and characters, and that's what Denis Villeneuve was doing in the movie, from the writing and the direction of the film. At first, I thought the villain Love was okay, but the more times I've watched this movie, and I've watched this movie a lot more now, I have to say Sylvia Hoeks did a really good job as Love. I really like the complexity, and yeah, she does fight. That's not explained, but it was alright with me not being explained. Also, I like that this is a different story from the first one. It's basically the same story, but it's with a different character in Officer K. And Officer K is a pretty awesome character. I really love the development and the story of behind him, and eventually his reveal that he is Joe. And I really like the reveal of the character K. He's not a superhero. He's an everyday person, and he is a cop, and he gets beaten around the bush a lot sometimes. And that's what I really liked in the character of K. He's vulnerable. And also the story I thought was really compelling, and I thought it was a fantastic story that needed to be told, written by Hampton Fancher and Michael Green. Now, when it comes to Wallace, yes, Wallace is underused, but my guess is they were saving him for a potential third film, which is probably not going to happen. But because this movie is finding new life in home media, we might possibly get a third film. I don't know. Now, Ridley Scott complained that this film was too long. Well, as true as it is to that director, he's made long movies in the past, so that's really kind of unnecessary to bring up. I think the 163-minute long runtime was long enough and was perfect enough to tell the story that needed to be told. It gave us more time to be invested into the world and into the characters and into the story. And I thought telling a story like this needed a longer runtime. And I have to say, the characters that are in this film were well written, especially the arc from Deckard, which Harrison Ford really does an amazing job playing. I really seriously thought he was robbed of Best Supporting Actor, as well as Denis Villeneuve, but I'm so happy Guillermo del Toro got his Academy Award for The Shape of Water, which I have talked about on my channel if you want to check that out. The characters in here I thought were really well handled. I thought were really amazed, and I thought that each character got their time to shine. Even Joy, who's played by Ana de Armas. Now, the thing with Joy is that she wants to be human, but she's an artificial intelligence. And she feels human emotion, and she wants to be human and be in a relationship with Kay. But, unfortunately for her, she can't because she's an artificial intelligence. I also like the relationship in the first one between Rachel and Deckard. I thought that was really good too. And to see the legacy continue in multiple ways than one, I thought was a pretty interesting idea to go in. And it's basically the story. And we continue the story of the first film in a very compelling way. And I've heard some criticism saying that the story is just mediocre. I have to disagree. The story in this movie is good. I disagree with Ridley Scott when he says this movie is too long. Yeah, it is a long movie, but it's not boring. And the runtime makes us good time for good character development of his main characters. And I really thought Ryan Gosling did a really great job at playing Officer K. He really nailed the role down to his essence, and I really thought that he very stood out. And everyone else stood out pretty too. I thought Jared Leto did a great job as Neander Wallace. I thought Dave Bautista got his screen time too in his small role, which I can forgive because he was doing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So I have to say that pretty much the acting is still really good. Now, the cinematography work in this movie, every shot is like a painting. You can hang a shot from this movie in a museum. People will look at it for hours and hours and hours, and they will not stop looking. And just the way Roger Deakins shot this movie, which I have to congratulate him for getting his well-deserved Oscar, because it was very well-deserved. I really thought his Oscar was much deserved here. And I thought that the way the film handled its camera work and its camera techniques and the color palettes, it's a visually stunning looking film. It's beautiful looking, especially the scenes with the hologram Joy. It's pretty good. And the scene of Kay walking in the desert like orange yellow wasteland, I thought that was really good too. I thought some of the best looking imagery that you'll ever get. And you can tell Denis Villeneuve didn't want to do the first movie over again. He wanted to do his own thing, and I have to say, I respect him for doing his own thing. He did what few directors can barely do half the time, and that is be your own movie without having to rehash stuff. And this is not a rehash. It wasn't a remake. I thought it was A very compelling movie. And I still think it's a compelling film. I don't know if watching this movie is going to make you change your mind. But I hope as you watch this analyze review, you can see that I'm trying to suggest this magnificent film. Now I have to say, my one nitpick in my review I did say was that Jared Leto got underused, but again, I understand they was probably intending to use him more. I was just kind of hoping to see Harrison Ford just take that character and just give him a punch or something. But speaking of Harrison Ford, like I said, Deckard was great. The way they handled him was great. They didn't kill him off like Han Solo, which I know that was a lot thing that people were upset about with that film, The Force Awakens. But this is Blade Runner we're talking about, so the effects are quite entertaining for the most part. All the effects, you could tell the budget was used well, and this movie didn't get to make anything in the US, but it did do well domestically, and it did well in home media sales too. A lot of people are starting this is becoming a cult classic now as we speak, and for the better, for a good reason, because this is a magnificently entertaining film. And I thought that all the work that went into this movie should have made a lot more than it did. And I also really thought that the visual style here was just something visually striking, gorgeous looking. Every single line of dialogue is spoken very well, and you have to pay attention to what the characters are saying. Otherwise, you'll miss what they're saying. Now, the thing that a lot of people, I was very surprised at was how they were able to incorporate Sean Young into this through the use of CGI. And I have to say, that was pretty cool. I love the references to the first film. There's not a lot of references, but like I said, this is his own story. It didn't need to reference a lot from the first movie. Now, I know some people have a problem with the love scene between Joy and Kay. Now, that was done with both Ana de Armas and Mackenzie Davis, and I have to say the combination of both of them pretty worked for the special effect technique. That was surprising to see. And the way Villeneuve shot that, I really don't have a problem with that scene overall. I know some people have a problem with it, but it's just people wanting something to complain about, just like they complain about this movie being too long. This movie's not too long. I guess people just don't have the patience to sit through a long movie half the time. I don't have the patience to sit through long movies on a few occasions, but I do sit through long movies like Return of the King, all the Star Wars films, the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which that is the longest Harry Potter film at 2 hours and 41 minutes. But I felt like the runtime was fine. I know there are people who just look at this film and they'll say that this movie is just padding out the runtime. It's not even being fine. This is a fine film. You're not gonna get, like I said in my my spoiler-free review I did last year, you're not gonna get Blade fighting Dracula or that fight on Mustafar with Anakin and Obi-Wan, or the final few minutes of Return of the Jedi. You're getting a thinking person's movie, and that's what you have to be prepared to sink into. You have to be prepared to sit through a thinking person's movie. And it's a shame that we get thinking person's movies like this, and some people gets upset because there's a lack of action. When Inception was a thinking person's movie, and that movie did successful, and also Interstellar did successfully well. So I really don't see what people are so mad about there. Another reason why I think this movie is overlooked is because I know it's not a lot of hours in the day, but at least this movie could have made at least 468 million worldwide if more people went to go see it. At least 468, but I'm not gonna blame the release date because I was fine with it coming out in October, and that it's been. And also, another thinking person's movie that didn't do so well earlier this year was Annihilation, which had Natalie Portman, and I really enjoyed that film. This movie, I really thought it was quite good, and I thought it was pretty entertaining. And 2049 and Annihilation are both thinking person's movies that I really enjoyed. The musical score, I've listened to the soundtrack by Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfisch, and it's a pretty fantastic score. And the score is well handled with care and respect, and just the world of the music for this movie is great. The world, of course, of the Blade Runner future, I like seeing this environment. I like seeing futuristic stuff, and I really thought it was pretty cool to see that. And just a very fun and entertaining scenery, production design, and just the production design was really well handled, and you can tell that the production designer and the costume designers really wanted to respect the legacy of the original, but also bring in something their own style. Now, I do like how this movie begins with the Warner Brothers logo, the Alcon Entertainment logo, and the Columbia logo in their futuristic static-like mode. I thought that was pretty cool. And just, there's a lot of fun to this film. It's not a depressing film. It's not boring to the point where you just want to shut the movie off. This is a great thinking person's movie that needs to be seen by more people. I think if more people watch this movie, you'll appreciate it more. I'm not so sure if that will help you, but it'll be smart enough and man enough to try it. I had to pause for a little bit just so I can catch my breath, because we are here and I'm recording this at 10:07 and I'm 19 minutes into the recording. Now, do I think there is an audience for this movie? Yes, there is an audience for this movie. You can watch it with a group of friends. You can show it to your boyfriend or girlfriend. You can show it to someone who is curious about Blade Runner. But I recommend showing the first one first, because if you watch this one and the first one, you're going to be confused. But if you're one of those people who didn't get, I think you should watch both of them again. You'll actually find enjoyment in both of these films, and they satisfy expectations. They prove to be more than just your typical dumb sci-fi film like Transformers or Pacific Rim. This is a deep, thought-provoking, thinking person's film that needs to be seen. And I think that people in the future will go to this movie and say, why don't we get movies like this? And then people are going to respond, because you people don't go out and see them. That's, and I think that's the legacy of both this movie and the original is going to carry on. Even if we don't get a third film, I'm still very pleased at the world of this environment. I'm very pleased with what both Ridley Scott and Denis Villeneuve did with both of these films. And this is the kind of movie that's going to be shown in film schools in the future, to show future movie makers like myself how to make a good sci-fi film, how to make a great thinking person's movie, how to make a great film with great effects, great character development, great scenery, great music, great everything. And every single person who worked on this movie has to be given credit, because this movie, I would have easily hated this movie, but because I was so interested in it and because I was optimistic about it, I wanted to give it a chance, and I actually enjoyed what I liked. And like I said, it was not a terrible film. I think people will just, if people don't like the movie, that's okay. If people think this movie is boring, it's fine, but let me assure you, like I said in my Best Movies 2017 video, you people complain that this movie is long, but yet you give Pirates of the Caribbean and World's End a pass. Why give that movie a pass and give this movie hate? That's just not fair. Because at least this movie has a reason for being 163 minutes long. Pirates 3 was an incoherent mess of a film. And it was convoluted, and it had a lot of things going on. And it did not wrap up its story arcs the way it was supposed to. Where this movie, it continues the story arcs, but it is not boring. Yes, the runtime is padded out, but I don't feel the runtime with a lot of movies. I don't feel it. And I really do enjoy the character aspects. I like the story. I like the visual aspect. And I enjoyed everything else about this wonderful, incredible, brilliant, spectacular spectacle that is Blade Runner 2049. If you have not seen Blade Runner 2049, what are you doing? Now, the ending of this movie I really liked. It's basically K, he goes out fighting. And I like the way his character goes out. It's pretty sad, and he goes out fighting, and he's hurt, and he tells Harrison Ford to go see his daughter, in which he does go see, and the movie ends there. I love the ending there. And just everything, and just that's a great ending to the movie. And like I said, the satisfactory that this movie did do, this movie did justice. So I've ran out of words to say about this magnificent film. If you have not seen Blade Runner 2049, check it out. This is my analysis of why I think Blade Runner 2049 is an overlooked masterpiece. So, let me know what you guys think of this analyzed review down below. I'm sorry it took so long to get this out. Have you seen the film? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? And see you guys in the next video. And you guys keep it cool. This is Future Filmmaker 39480 signing out, and see you next time.